Welcome to Finding Holiness, where we delve into timeless Torah wisdom, revealing the sacred in everyday moments. Join us on a journey to elevate your spirituality and discover holiness in every aspect of life. I'm your host, Rabbi David Kadosh, and together, let's embark on a path of spiritual exploration. I hope you enjoy this next episode. In this week's parasha, Hashem tells Moshe to go up to the mountain and glance at the land of Israel. This episode is actually elaborated in Sefer Devarim, when Moshe prays extensively to enter the land by foot, but Hashem does not heed his prayer. Instead, he tells him that he can go up to the mountain and look at the land. As a small consolation, rather than physically entering Israel, Hashem felt that gazing at the land would be sufficient, given the decree that Moshe could not enter after the story of Mei Merivah. This always bothered me, because it just doesn't seem to make much sense that Hashem could act so cruelly to Moshe. Forgive my speech. If a child has such a desire to go to an amusement park, for example, but he committed an act that his parents felt warranted a punishment not to go, then simply say no. Why should the father then drive the child to the amusement park and have him see the rides and thrills that he can't experience? What message does this serve and impart? This is a question that is asked by many commentators, more specifically the Abarbanel. He actually gives a different example. Imagine a person craves a certain food. He will do anything to have that food, but his master says, "I'll get someone to make you the food, but you can only look at it." The level of meanness is beyond comprehension. So how can we make sense of what is happening here? Plus, Moshe wanted to enter Israel so he can fulfill the mitzvot that are connected with the land. How would gazing at the land of Israel help that? I read two answers that could help us make sense of this story. In fact, what transpires is actually a chesed on the part of Hashem and not, God forbid, an act of cruelty or punishment. Rav Nebenzahl Shlita explains that Eretz Yisrael contains a level of holiness so great that even if one looks at it, he is enveloped with Kedusha. So while he wouldn't be able to fulfill the mitzvot pertaining to the land while physically standing in it, he can gain a lesser form of Kedusha simply by looking at it. His neshama is elevated by staring at the land, which is the home of all those mitzvot that he was looking to perform. The Ramban gives a deeper answer. He writes that Moshe, being the quintessential leader of the Jewish people, looked at the nation as his own children. Just like a father strains and sweats in the development of his child, so too Moshe gave it his all to ensure that his people were successful in their godly service. Even when they stumbled, he prayed for them. All of this work and effort was so that they can inherit Eretz Yisrael. So as the leader, as their father, he wanted to see what his children were ready to collect. He wanted to witness firsthand the fruits of his labor. This idea is brought down in the commentary of Yonatan ben Uziel, who brings a parable of a father who raised his son and was ready to walk him down the aisle for his marriage. A few days before the wedding, something happened in his personal life, and the king sentenced him to death. When asked for a final wish, the father requested that he see his son's wedding from afar, even though he can't be there in person. And so Moshe, prior to his death, was ready to do whatever was physically possible to gain a connection to Israel. Hashem, the king, was willing to comply. Personally, I had many questions growing up reading this story. As I mentioned above, I just couldn't understand the thought process behind Hashem's decision to allow him to see it. It was bad enough that he judged Moshe with such a fine thread that he couldn't enter Israel for a tiny misdemeanor. But at face value, it just seems like Hashem was shoving it in his face. Ha! Not only will you not enter, not only can't you ride the roller coaster, but I'll take you right outside the front entrance so you know exactly what you'll be missing. But Hashem is kulo letovah, and many times we don't see the product of the master plan until the end. Whichever interpretation you feel more connected to, you will see that all of this was for Moshe's benefit, whether it was to bring his neshama to new heights or to have the nachat knowing that his children will reap the benefit for his lifelong effort.